and basically the colors are arbitrarily coded.
Okay.
They just the argument goes that societies and
Just
cultures.
back to the meme, can I interrupt you? Back to,
Yeah.
is the meme a parallel culturally for a gene? So it's the unit
Yeah,
of
meme is sort of
conveyance?
like an information virus that
Okay,
spreads
got it.
throughout
Okay,
culture.
so it's
although
the same definition.
it's
that
kind of a very. It's one of those words that's used 24 different
Charles
ways.
Dawkins. Charles Dawkins.
Richard Dawkins.
Richard Dawkins. Richard Dawkins.
There he goes again.
There he goes. Thank you, Richard Dawkins. Thank you.
Objective standards.
There you go. I mean, there we
Get
go.
the
There's
facts right.
objectivity. There's objectivity right there. It's
the-
not Charles Dawkins. It's Richard Dawkins.
The place that Ken is in disagreement with a lot of people is around what he calls the green meme, which
Okay.
also correlates with ecological consciousness and the sensitive self. And basically,
Sensitive self.
sensitive self is another way of doing it.
Okay, got it.
Which is basically saying that everyone who's out there that has an opinion is to be equally valued, no matter what, and that there aren't any hierarchies of values ultimately. And he also hooks that into
And this he says is a
postmodernism
problem.
and
This is a problem.
deconstructionism. Yeah, he sees this as a problem because, for
I would
one
agree.
thing,
I would agree
people
with
are saying that there shouldn't be any higher or lower values, and that's their value, which is a
Right.
contradiction that in
Right,
and of
yeah,
itself.
they have a value that says that.
But
That's-
he is saying that the baby boomer generation, at least a significant portion of it, is stuck at this green meme
Right,
and is ready to
right.
begin evolving into post-rational stages of consciousness, but it has to get beyond the green meme first. And
Right,
he ends up getting a bunch of people angry when he starts pointing that out,
Right,
especially most of modern academia that has been very much involved in this kind of deconstruction,
Right.
postmodernist place.
Right.
And Ken's goal is to basically get something like 2% of the culture, 2% of the people on the planet now he believes are post-green meme, and he wants to
thinks it's
help
that
bring
high,
that up to
2%?
8 to 10. Yeah, he does.
Wow.
It's
Do you
in
know
these
what he
things he
bases
calls
that
yeah,
on?
yeah, there has been a lot of research for
It's an
spiral
empirical
dynamics.
study,
You
really?
can check it out. It was founded by a guy named Claire Graves, and then
Mm-hmm.
pushed now by Don Beck and Chris Cowan. And
Okay.
they've got websites and books, and it's an interesting theory. And they've got a lot of data that show that people do tend to cluster in different types of developmental places, from the beige meme, which is archaic, to the purple, which is magical and mythic, to the red,
Stuck
which
there.
is about power gods, and worked its way up.
Interesting.
Sorry.
There you have it.
There we go. Well, I think I agree with Ken on that one.
I'm purple.
You'd be foolish to argue, laddie.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to get in an argument with Ken with his interviewer here.
Right.
We've got Ken and Gnome in spirit here.
Yeah. Yes. And Peter in person. So Peter, you did a brilliant video that I first knew you from, the Awakening the Global Brain.
The Global Brain.
The Global Brain. It was a brilliant video. I've shown it to probably 100 people, if not more. Could you talk just a little bit about that, your thesis in that? That was really ahead of its time, and you see a lot of what you talked about is coming to fruition. I think it's the same thing that Ken Wilber's talking about, that the next venture really is an evolution of the mind,
Right.
an evolution in consciousness. So how do you see that playing itself out now?
Well, I mean, I was playing with those ideas back in the 70s.
Right, that was before the advent of the internet.
Oh yeah,
and it was very-
very early stuff on the internet
Right.
was beginning to happen.
Right.
I actually come out of a background with computing as well as psychology
Right,
and physics.
right.
I actually had done some very, very early work in virtual reality
Oh, did you?
in the early
Wow.
70s and connecting doing some of the early linking of computers.
Right.
But I also got very interested in Teilhard de Chardin and his vision of humanity having a spiritual direction and the coming together of humanity.
Yeah.
And it struck me that the networking of computers was going to facilitate that coming together of human consciousness.
Well, and here you have Jordan, who has Enlightenment.com,
Right.
which he's trying to do just that.
So the Global Brain, I was sort of looking at this way back then, and I made that video in '82. And looking back, that's 20 years ago.
Right.
I mean, it's very naive now when I look back at it, because nobody back then predicted the World Wide Web and how it would affect
No,
us.
yeah,
We were
yeah,
looking
yeah.
at electronic data processing, and it was all going to be numbers on screen.
You foreshadowed it in a way. I mean,
Yeah.
you talked about the connectedness
The
being
connectivity, yes. I think the richness of the media, nobody really saw the
the
richness
richness
of
of the bandwidth. Yeah, nobody saw that.
And that's, I mean, we are incredibly bad at predicting the future.
Yes.
Thank God.
Unless if you're Jules Verne.
No.
Well,
Jules Verne?
Jules Verne, the moon launch,
In those
submarines.
great big steam pad bits of metal.
Oh well, but I mean, so he has to
Gone wrong.
He had to do his best, but the idea was there.
But the idea there was that through the information technology would give us the means to actually
Right.
begin to develop a common awareness
Right.
and share values.
and I think that's happening. I think
It
that's
is.
happening. And so, Jordan, are you okay? Because okay. So I'm just going to ask you to talk a little bit about Enlightenment.com, but maybe we can get back.
Well, I work in the internet industry, and I've definitely found it to be really fascinating, the sort of community of the online communities that I've experienced,
Right.
and how different people interact in those situations, both good and bad. I find that people are able to say things that they would never say face to face, which
Wow.
again is both good and bad, because you have people tearing each other down in a way that people just couldn't do in person unless they're, really mean. But at the same time, you have people discussing things, people all over the world, racial issues that probably would never have happened unless it was in this anonymous setting. So it's really a whole nother, and when I see the young people now, like at my company, we have 20-year-olds that work there, and I see them online and stuff like that, they're in a whole different mode of thinking than even, me in my 30s, and it's just really fascinating to see this whole other language that's sprung up in this virtual
Right.
environment.
Right.
And
Right.
but I mean, no
It's
doubt.
become a
with-
whole culture. There's a real culture around it.
Exactly.
And I don't
And it's
know
so rapid.
if it's
It's
growing
good
very
and bad,
rapidly.
but I have hopes for the young people and their. I mean, it sounds so old of me to say, but
Yeah,
I
I'd
think
say.
it's.
Right.
Well, I
You're
mean,
one
the
of them
20s
as far as I can
Yeah,
tell.
that's right.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yes.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm looking at a half generation down, and
Sure.
I think they're really on the right track. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm able to
Yeah.
connect with people, with the events that I do and networking around my project. People are coming to me from all over the world through email that I never would have been able to have contacted before.
Can you talk a little bit about those events? I know you put on wonderful dances up at your beautiful land up there. Can you talk a little bit about how consciousness expansion is supported by music and dance and
Well, I think it really
even
brings out the best in people.
entheogens.
Because
Something we haven't talked about.
I mean, I don't know if entheogens are really necessary if you can find the right music. Because I mean, just going into a state where you're dancing all night and then the sun comes up and you all are looking into each other's eyes, it brings out the best in people because
true.
it's just completely transcendent.
It's a mystical
and
experience.
That to
I've
us
experienced
is
that
our core
myself.
religious practice. It's all we
Right.
really, state is all we want is the freedom to dance all night. Just give us that. And
It doesn't
we'll
happen
take it
very
from
often.
there.
Earth Dance, the police showed up at 3 in the morning, even though I couldn't hear the music standing on the property. It was on an Indian reservation. The police were there with a noise complaint. And so it's the right to dance all night is
Not assured.
Not assured. So Jordan, are you back with us? I wanted to have you talk a little bit about how Enlightenment.com is angling to have electronic satori and.
Yeah, well, we talk a bunch about digital darshan, but the real idea behind the site is just to make it possible for people to find what's most likely to work for them from the
So
whole
it's a
spectrum
personal
of
path.
psychospiritual tools and techniques
Right.
and teachings. I believe lots of techniques work, but different things work for different people. And in order to support them in online practice groups and making
Right.
online commitments and bringing in the right sorts of people, that you basically could really create a hub that would be the kind of website where I would want to hang out. And haven't
Right.
found it yet, so I'm trying to create it.
There you go. Good. Well, we have 2 minutes left, so would we all like to conclude with a brief statement? And I need a little bit of time to introduce our dancers as well. So, Peter, would we like to start with you and go this way?
I just like to pick up on the point you were making about the younger generation, because I think that's the greatest sign of hope I see for the
Right.
future. I think there is so much wisdom there, and I think it was
Right.
Bucky Fuller said, you want to know who your elders are,
Right.
look to the upcoming generation,
Right.
because that's where the wisdom is.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Alicia?
I don't have anything to say.
Okay. I'll skip me. Concluding
No,
remark?
I absolutely agree with Peter. I mean, I think that first of all, it's imperative that we do be hopeful, and secondly, that if we're going to be hopeful, the only hope does lie with young people, and that's absolutely where I would look. So
Right.
thank you for that.
Right, and I just met a wonderful young person today, the son of the head of the linguistics department at Stanford, Luke Rickford. Wonderful young man, going to be a writer, going to Harvard, I think. Jordan?
Just it seems to me that whatever we focus our consciousness on becomes more real, and that's always happened. And so I'm an optimist because I want an optimistic outcome.
All right.
Might as well be.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
So thank you all panelists. I'd like to thank our dancers, Danielle and Sabina and Jules. And I'd like to thank Terry Lavios, our co-host and musical director, and Rio and Matthew. So thank you all very much. It's been a fun show to do. Probably the most cerebral thing you're going to see on TV ever, maybe. I think we've
Until the next show.
Thank you. Yeah, until the next show. Well, this one is food for thought, and I hope it's been nourishing. I hope there's been something in there for everyone. And there is one thing, if we do have 30 seconds, to just to put a little plug for linguists. One thing I've noticed is that a lot of the great philosophers of the last 100 years have been linguists. So the pressure's on you, Richard. You have Nietzsche and Chomsky and Kuhn, and I think you could say Wittgenstein maybe was a linguist as well.
Yes.
So linguists gotta carry that forward. So thank you all very much. And our crew, thank you so much to wonderful crew, Dave and Ken and Joanne and Vivian and Dave and Rob and Paul, and to Cheryl and Monsieur, I'm spacing. Okay, thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you. Can we end in an om? Oh.